The mockery. The grand chamber of the Trigalactic Council floated in the void between three spiral galaxies, a marvel of engineering that made even the most advanced civilizations pause in wonder. Inside its crystalline walls, representatives from hundreds of star systems gathered to witness what many considered a mere formality. The humans of Earth had requested membership in the Council, and the three dominant powers had already decided their answer. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the circular platform, her simple blue uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate armor and bioluminescent displays of the alien delegates surrounding her. She had prepared her speech carefully, knowing that humanity's future might depend on the next few hours. What she didn't know was that the decision had been made before she even arrived. The Velkari Emperor, a towering figure whose crystalline exoskeleton refracted light into rainbow patterns, raised one of his forearms to silence the murmuring crowd. His species had controlled the Andromeda Galaxy for over 10,000 years, and his voice carried the weight of that ancient authority. He spoke in the universal trade language, his words translated instantly into hundreds of tongues by the neural implants most species used for communication. "We have reviewed Earth's petition for Council membership," the Emperor began, his tone carrying barely concealed amusement. "Your species has achieved faster-than-light travel, which is admirable for such a young civilization. However, you lack the fundamental requirements for participation in galactic governance." Elena felt her jaw tighten but maintained her diplomatic composure. She had expected resistance, but the Emperor's dismissive tone suggested something worse than mere rejection. Around the chamber, she could hear the chittering and buzzing of various species, many of them laughing at humanity's audacity. The Zephyron Collective's speaker, a being composed of swirling energy contained within a magnetic field, added its perspective. The collective controlled most of the Triangulum Galaxy and considered themselves the pinnacle of technological advancement. Their voice echoed through the chamber like wind through a canyon. "Your weapons are primitive projectiles accelerated by chemical reactions. Your shields cannot withstand even basic plasma weapons. Your ships lack quantum stabilizers, dimensional anchors, or temporal buffers. In essence, you are children playing with toys and asking to sit at the table with gods." The third major power, the Hive Confederation from the Milky Way's core regions, sent its diplomatic drone forward. The insectoid machine spoke with the collective consciousness of trillions of beings. "Humanity's biological form is inefficient. Your lifespan barely reaches a century. Your computational abilities are limited by organic neural pathways. You wage wars among yourselves over resources that could easily be replicated with basic molecular assemblers. The Council's decision is unanimous. Earth will remain under protectorate status, forbidden from expanding beyond your home system until you demonstrate sufficient advancement." Elena had known this might happen, but hearing it spoken so bluntly still stung. Yet she noticed something interesting in their words. They spoke of humanity's limitations with such certainty, such absolute conviction, that it bordered on arrogance. They had studied Earth's public technology, analyzed the data humanity had willingly shared, and concluded that humans posed no threat to the established order. What they didn't know was that humanity had learned the first lesson of survival in a hostile universe. "Never show all your cards at once." "I understand your decision," Elena said calmly, bowing her head in apparent acceptance. "Earth will comply with the Council's ruling. We ask only for the right to trade peacefully with other species, and to be left in peace within our own system." The Velkari Emperor seemed pleased by her submission. "This is acceptable. Earth may establish limited trade relationships with approved species. Your system will be monitored to ensure compliance with Council restrictions. You may return to your world and inform your leaders of our decision." As Elena turned to leave, she caught sight of several other species representatives. Some looked at her with pity, others with contempt. A few seemed almost disappointed, as if they had hoped for more resistance from the species that had shown such promise in its early space exploration. None of them suspected the truth. Light years away, in the frozen darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, Captain Marcus Wright stood on the bridge of the UHNS Indomitable, Earth's first true dreadnought. The ship was massive beyond anything humanity had built before, stretching over 5 kilometers from bow to stern. But its size was not what made it revolutionary. Marcus was a career military officer who had spent 30 years in Earth's space forces, starting as a pilot and working his way up through the ranks. He had fought in the resource wars that nearly tore humanity apart before first contact, and he understood something that the peaceful diplomats back on Earth sometimes forgot. Power respected power, and nothing else. "Status report," Marcus commanded, his voice carrying easily through the bridge despite speaking barely above normal volume. The Indomitable's command center was designed for efficiency rather than grandeur, with dozens of stations arranged in concentric circles around the captain's chair. Commander Lisa Park, his executive officer, brought up a holographic display. Unlike the primitive screens the aliens believed humans still used, this projection was generated by quantum entanglement arrays that couldn't be jammed or intercepted. "All systems nominal, Captain. The fleet reports ready status. We're currently maintaining position at Rally Point Omega." Marcus nodded, studying the tactical display. What appeared to be empty space was actually home to humanity's greatest secret. Surrounding the Indomitable were 47 other dreadnoughts, each one a masterpiece of engineering that made the Alien Council's technology look antiquated by comparison. The truth was that humanity had been lying about its capabilities for the past 20 years. When Earth scientists first cracked faster-than-light travel, they had done so not by following the standard quantum tunnel approach used by other species, but by discovering something entirely different. They called it fold space mechanics, and it allowed human ships to step outside normal spacetime entirely. While the galaxy's established powers had been perfecting technology that was thousands of years old, humanity had stumbled onto something revolutionary. They had built weapons that could tear holes in reality itself, shields that existed partially outside normal dimensions, and sensors that could detect threats before they even fully entered real space. And they had done it all while carefully maintaining the appearance of a primitive, struggling species. "Sir, receiving encoded transmission from Ambassador Vasquez," Park reported. "She's clear of the council station and heading home. The message reads, they bought it completely." Proceeding to Phase 2, Marcus allowed himself a thin smile. Phase 2 had been years in the making. While the Trigalactic Council had been studying humanity's public technology and declaring humans too primitive for membership, Earth scientists and engineers had been working in secret. They had built their Dreadnought Fleet in the darkness between stars, using autonomous construction facilities that left no trace. They had recruited and trained crews from Earth's best military personnel, all sworn to absolute secrecy. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. Humanity would allow itself to be dismissed, underestimated, and confined to its home system. Meanwhile, the Dreadnought Fleet would quietly map every major system controlled by the three galactic powers. They would identify key military installations, trade routes, and command centers, and when the time came, they would demonstrate that humanity was anything but primitive. "New contact," Lieutenant James Rodriguez called from the sensor station. "Valkyrie patrol ship dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. They're running standard scans." "Activate stealth protocol," Marcus ordered calmly. Throughout the fleet, every dreadnought engaged systems that the aliens didn't even know were possible. The ships didn't just hide from sensors. They removed themselves from normal spacetime entirely, existing in a quantum superposition that made them effectively invisible to any known detection method. The Valkyrie patrol ship passed within a few thousand kilometers of the Indomitable, its sensors reading nothing but empty space and background radiation. Its crew had no idea they had just flown through the middle of humanity's battle fleet. After completing its patrol pattern, the alien ship jumped back to FTL, confident that Earth's system was properly contained and monitored. Marcus watched it go, thinking about the irony of the situation. The Valkyrie thought they were monitoring a primitive species confined to one system. In reality, humanity had already mapped over 300 Valkyrie military installations across Andromeda. The Zephyron Collective believed their energy-based technology was untouchable. Humanity had already developed weapons specifically designed to disrupt their magnetic containment fields. The Hive Confederation thought their distributed consciousness made them invulnerable. Earth's quantum computers had already cracked their encryption and could theoretically take control of their drones. "How long until the ambassador reaches Earth?" Marcus asked. "Approximately 6 hours at her current speed," Park replied. "The Council allowed her to use one of their emergency FTL corridors. They're very confident we'll comply with their restrictions." "Their mistake," Marcus said quietly. He pulled up a star chart showing the 3 galaxies. Red markers indicated known alien military positions. Blue markers showed humanity's hidden observation posts and the current locations of Dreadnought fleets. There were far more blue markers than red ones, and the number was growing every day. The Trigalactic Council had made their decision based on incomplete information and arrogant assumptions. They had looked at humanity's public face and seen a weak, divided species barely capable of defending its own planet. They had never considered that humans might be capable of deception on a strategic level, that a species so recently arrived in the galactic community might already be planning several moves ahead. "Begin Phase 2 operations," Marcus commanded. "All fleets are to proceed to their designated positions. Maintain complete stealth until the signal is given. We have waited 20 years for this moment. We can wait a few more weeks to ensure everything is perfect." "Aye, Captain," Park acknowledged, relaying the orders through quantum-encrypted channels that couldn't be intercepted, even if the aliens knew to look for them. Around Neptune's orbit, the Dreadnought Fleet began to move. Ships that shouldn't exist according to galactic scientific understanding slipped through fold space like ghosts, heading toward destinations across 3 galaxies. Each one carried enough firepower to level a planet. But more importantly, each one carried a message that humanity was about to deliver to the species that had laughed at them. The message was simple: underestimate humans at your own peril. Marcus settled back in his command chair, his eyes on the tactical display. The Velkari Emperor had called humanity children playing with toys. The Zephron Collective had dismissed human technology as primitive. The Hive Confederation had declared humans biologically inferior. In a few weeks, all 3 would learn the truth. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since the day they realized they weren't alone in the universe. While other species had grown complacent in their ancient power, humans had evolved, adapted, and innovated with the desperate creativity of a species that knew it could never afford to be weak. They had turned their supposed disadvantages into advantages, their youth into flexibility, their diversity into strength. The Trigalactic Council thought they had put humanity in its place. Instead, they had given Earth exactly what it needed: time to prepare, motivation to excel, and the element of complete surprise. The laughter that had echoed through the council chamber would soon be replaced by something else entirely. As the last of the dreadnoughts vanished into fold space, Marcus allowed himself to think about the future. Humanity didn't want to conquer the galaxies or dominate other species. They simply wanted what every sentient being wanted: the right to exist freely, to grow, to explore, and to determine their own destiny. The Council had tried to deny them that right, based on nothing more than prejudice and assumptions. Soon, very soon, humanity would show the 3 galaxies what it truly meant to be human, and the universe would never be the same. The fury unleashed. 3 weeks had passed since the humiliation at the Trigalactic Council, and the universe was about to change forever. Captain Marcus Wright stood before the assembled holographic projections of 47 other dreadnought commanders, each one a carefully selected veteran of Earth's military forces. Behind him, the viewscreen showed the Nexus Point, a massive space station that served as the primary military coordination hub for all 3 galactic powers. The Nexus Point was considered impregnable. It sat at the gravitational center point between the 3 galaxies, protected by overlapping shield grids that could withstand the explosion of a star. Its weapons batteries could track and destroy thousands of targets simultaneously. Over 500 warships from the Velkari, Zephron, and Hive forces maintained constant patrol around it. The aliens believed it was the safest location in known space. They were about to learn otherwise. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice steady and calm despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. 20 years ago, we discovered we weren't alone in the universe. We reached out with hope and curiosity, only to be told we were primitives unworthy of basic respect. Today, we remind the galaxies of an important lesson. Humanity has never responded well to being told what we cannot do. The commanders listened in silence, their faces showing a mixture of determination and anticipation. These were men and women who had dedicated years of their lives to this moment. Training in secret, perfecting tactics that no alien species had ever encountered, preparing for a battle that would redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. Commander Park stepped forward with the tactical briefing. "Intelligence confirms that the Trigalactic Council is holding an emergency session at Nexus Point in approximately 4 hours. All 3 emperors will be present. along with their military high commands. They're discussing increased restrictions on Earth, following reports that our merchant ships have been traveling further than authorized. Marcus smiled grimly at that. The merchant ships had indeed been traveling further than authorized, but they weren't carrying trade goods. Each one was a stealth reconnaissance vessel, mapping alien defenses and identifying weaknesses in their supposedly invincible systems. The Council's arrogance had made them careless. They never thought to seriously scan human vessels because they couldn't imagine humans possessing technology worth hiding. Our objective is simple, Marcus continued. We will demonstrate humanity's true capabilities in a way that cannot be ignored or dismissed. We will not start this fight, but we will end it. All ships are authorized to defend themselves and each other with extreme prejudice, but I want prisoners where possible. The galaxy needs to understand that we're not monsters. We're simply done being treated as inferiors. Lieutenant Rodriguez brought up the deployment map. Blue icons representing human dreadnoughts appeared at strategic points around the nexus point, each one currently hidden in fold space. Red icons showed alien patrol routes and defensive positions. The aliens had arranged their forces to defend against conventional attacks from normal space. They had no defense against an enemy that could attack from outside reality itself. All ships report ready status, Captain, Park confirmed. Weapons are charged, shields are calibrated, and fold space drives are standing by for rapid deployment. Marcus took a deep breath, thinking about the weight of this moment. Humanity had spent 2 decades preparing for this, but there would be no going back once the first shot was fired. They would either establish themselves as a force to be respected in galactic politics, or they would confirm every prejudice the aliens held about human primitiveness and aggression. But looking at the tactical display, at the overwhelming force the aliens had assembled to intimidate and control other species, Marcus knew they had no choice. Power without restraint eventually turned into tyranny. The Trigalactic Council had ruled for too long without anyone capable of challenging their authority. They had grown comfortable in their dominance, certain that their ancient technologies and vast fleets made them untouchable. All ships execute approach vector, Marcus commanded. Maintain stealth until my direct order. We emerge on my mark and not before. Across 3 galaxies, human dreadnoughts began moving toward their targets. They traveled through fold space, existing in a quantum state that made them invisible to every sensor the aliens possessed. The Velkari's gravitic detector saw nothing. The Zephron's energy scanners picked up no unusual readings. The Hive's distributed sensor network reported only normal background radiation. At the nexus point, the emergency council session was underway. The Velkari Emperor stood at the center of the grand chamber, his crystalline form refracting the light from 3 artificial suns that represented the 3 galaxies. Around him, thousands of delegates from member species listened as he outlined new restrictions for humanity. Earth's continued defiance of our guidance shows their primitive nature, the Emperor declared. Their merchant vessels have been detected beyond authorized boundaries. Their diplomats continue to petition for rights they have not earned. I propose we impose a complete blockade of their system until they demonstrate proper compliance. The Zephron Collective's representatives swirled with agreement. Humanity's biological limitations make them inherently unstable. They reproduce without control, consume resources inefficiently, and display aggressive tendencies. A blockade is insufficient. We should consider forced technological regression to prevent them from becoming a threat. The Hive Confederation's primary node buzzed its consensus. Our analysis suggests that humanity will never accept their proper place in the galactic hierarchy without significant intervention. We recommend the deployment of behavior modification satellites around Earth to ensure compliance. Ambassador Vasquez, who had been forced to attend this session as part of Earth's protectorate status, stood from her designated seat in the lower section reserved for inferior species. Her voice was calm but carried clearly through the chamber. Before this council makes any decision regarding Earth, I have a message from my government. The Velkari Emperor looked down at her with what might have been amusement. Very well, human. Speak your primitive concerns. Though I warn you, the council's patience with your species grows thin. Vasquez smiled, and there was something in that smile that should have warned them. My government wishes to inform the council that we appreciate your concern for our development. However, we must respectfully decline your proposed restrictions. The chamber erupted in various sounds of outrage and disbelief. The Emperor raised his arms for silence. You decline? You do not have the authority to decline. You are a protectorate species bound by council law. That's where you're mistaken, Vasquez replied calmly. We were never bound by laws we didn't agree to. You declared us a protectorate without our consent, based on faulty intelligence and arrogant assumptions. Now we're going to correct those assumptions. She raised her hand and every screen in the nexus point simultaneously flickered and changed. Instead of showing the council's insignia, they now displayed a simple message in every known language. Humanity sends its regards. At that moment, Marcus gave the order. All ships emerge and engage defensive positions. Let's show them what humans can really do. 48 dreadnoughts suddenly appeared in normal space around the nexus point, materializing from fold space in perfect formation. The alien sensors shrieked warnings as ships that shouldn't exist according to known physics suddenly occupied space that had been empty milliseconds before. The appearance was so sudden and unexpected that several alien patrol ships actually collided with each other, trying to respond. On the Indomitable's bridge, Marcus watched the chaos unfold with satisfaction. All ships power up weapon systems but hold fire. Let them make the first move. The alien response was immediate and predictable. Hundreds of ships converged on the human fleet, their weapons charging. The Velkari capital ships brought their massive plasma cannons online. The Zephyron energy beings began consolidating into attack formations. The Hive's drone swarms launched from their carriers like clouds of angry insects. Incoming fire, Rodriguez reported as the first wave of alien weapons discharged. Plasma bolts, energy beams, and kinetic missiles streaked toward the human ships. It was enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. Shields to full power, Marcus ordered calmly. Let's see how they react when their weapons don't work. The alien weapons struck the human shields and simply stopped existing. The fold space shield technology didn't block incoming fire in the traditional sense. Instead, it redirected the energy and matter into a pocket dimension where it dissipated harmlessly. To the aliens, it looked like their weapons were hitting an invisible wall and vanishing without effect. Aboard the Velkari flagship, Admiral Kresh watched in disbelief as his fleet's weapons proved completely ineffective. Impossible. Nothing can withstand that much concentrated fire. What kind of shielding is this? His science officer was frantically running sensor sweeps, and what it was detecting made no sense. Admiral, these ships are utilizing a form of space-time manipulation we've never encountered. Our weapons aren't being blocked, they're being redirected outside normal dimensional space. Then switch to dimensional disruptors, Kresh commanded. Those weapons affect space-time directly. They should bypass any conventional shield. The Velkari ships fired their most advanced weapons, devices that could tear holes in the fabric of reality itself. These weapons had been developed over thousands of years and represented the pinnacle of Velkari military technology. They had never failed to penetrate any known defense. They failed now. The dimensional disruptors struck the human shields and were absorbed, their exotic energy signatures disappearing into the fold space buffer zones without causing any damage. Marcus watched the alien forces exhaust their weapons against his fleet's shields without effect. He waited until they had fired everything they had, until their ships were cycling weapon systems and recharging capacitors. Then he opened a channel to all three alien fleets. Attention Velkari, Zephyron, and Hive forces, he said calmly. This is Captain Marcus Wright of the United Human Naval Service. You have fired upon Earth's vessels without provocation. We consider this an act of war. However, humanity does not wish for unnecessary bloodshed. Power down your weapons and withdraw to a safe distance, and we will allow you to leave unharmed. The response was immediate outrage. Admiral Kresh's voice came over the channel, filled with fury and disbelief. You dare threaten us? You are primitives. We are the Velkari Empire, rulers of Andromeda for 10,000 years. We do not retreat from primitives, Marcus sighed. He had hoped they would be reasonable, but he had prepared for this possibility. Commander Park, target the Velkari flagship's weapon systems. Surgical strikes only. Disable but don't destroy. Aye, Captain, firing. The Indomitable's main weapons came online, and the aliens got their first look at humanity's offensive capabilities. Unlike the energy weapons or projectiles they expected, the human Dreadnought fired concentrated bursts of folded space-time. These weren't weapons that traveled through space. They rewrote the local physics in targeted areas. The Velkari flagship's weapon arrays simply ceased to exist, their molecular structure unraveled by localized physics manipulation. The ship itself remained intact, as did its crew, but every weapon system on the massive vessel was rendered into its component atoms in less than 3 seconds. Similar strikes hit a dozen other ships across all 3 alien fleets. In each case, the weapons were precise, surgical, and devastating. Ships that had been threatening the human fleet moments before were suddenly powerless, their crews unharmed but their offensive capabilities completely neutralized. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed them all, but chose mercy instead. Admiral Kresh stared at his tactical displays in shock. Every weapons officer was reporting the same thing. Their systems hadn't been damaged or disabled. They had been erased at a molecular level, removed from existence with a precision that suggested technology far beyond anything the Trigalactic Council possessed. All ships, cease fire, Kresh ordered quietly. Around him, the other alien commanders were giving similar orders. They had no choice. They were completely outmatched. Back at the Nexus Point, the Council chamber had descended into chaos. The screens still showed the human message, but now they also displayed live footage of the battle. Delegates who had been laughing at humanity 3 weeks ago now watched in stunned silence as human ships casually dismantled the galaxy's most powerful military forces, the Velkari. Emperor's crystalline form had lost some of its luster. This is impossible. Our intelligence showed they barely had functional FTL drives. How did they develop such technology? Ambassador Vasquez stepped forward, her earlier diplomatic mask replaced with cold satisfaction. You developed your intelligence by studying what we chose to show you. You were so certain of your superiority that you never questioned whether we might be holding back. That was your first mistake. Your second was assuming that a young species couldn't innovate beyond what you consider possible. The Zephyron Collective's representative swirled with confusion and concern. But your merchant vessels, your public communications, everything indicated primitive technology. Everything we wanted you to see indicated primitive technology, Vasquez corrected. While you were congratulating yourselves on your ancient wisdom, we were developing technologies you never imagined. While you were maintaining the status quo, we were innovating. You had thousands of years to grow complacent. We had 20 years of motivation. Marcus's voice came through the council chamber's speakers, calm and measured. Trigalactic Council, this is Captain Wright. Your forces have been neutralized without casualties. We could have destroyed your fleets, but we chose not to. We could occupy the Nexus Point, but we will not. Humanity does not seek conquest or domination. We seek only one thing, respect. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. You judged us based on assumptions and prejudice. You attempted to confine us based on your outdated understanding of what was possible. In doing so, you gave us exactly what we needed. Underestimation. No enemy is more dangerous than one you don't take seriously. The Hive Confederation's primary node processed this information and broadcast a question. What are your demands? Our demands are simple, Marcus replied. Earth will be recognized as a full sovereign nation with all rights and privileges. The protectorate status is ended immediately. Human vessels will travel freely wherever they choose. And most importantly, the Trigalactic Council will acknowledge that technological advancement and political power are not determined by age alone. The Emperor looked at Vasquez, his earlier arrogance completely gone. And if we refuse? Vasquez smiled coldly. Then Captain Wright's fleet will remain here until you accept. We can stay in fold space indefinitely. Your ships cannot. Your crews need supplies, rest, and maintenance. Ours do not. You have approximately 72 hours to decide before your fleets run out of provisions. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, the Emperor spoke, his voice heavy with defeated acceptance. The council agrees to Earth's terms. The protectorate status is lifted. Humanity will be granted full membership rights. Excellent, Marcus said. We'll be withdrawing our forces now. But let this serve as a reminder to all 3 galaxies. Humanity will no longer accept being treated as inferiors. We came to the stars hoping for friendship and cooperation. You chose to mock us instead. Remember this day when you consider how to treat other emerging species in the future. The human dreadnoughts began disappearing back into fold space, vanishing as suddenly as they had appeared. Within minutes, only empty space remained where the fleet had been, though every alien present knew they could return at any moment. Ambassador Vasquez looked around the council chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates who had dismissed her species just weeks ago. Humanity learned an important lesson from this experience. We learned that sometimes the only way to earn respect is to demonstrate that the consequences of disrespect are unacceptable. We hope we never have to teach that lesson again. As she walked out of the chamber, the three galaxies began the difficult process of accepting a new reality. The humans they had mocked as primitives possessed technology that made their ancient civilizations look outdated. The species they had tried to confine to one system had spread across multiple galaxies without anyone noticing. The children playing with toys had just demonstrated they could dismantle the galaxy's greatest military powers without breaking a sweat. On Earth, the news of humanity's demonstration spread quickly. People celebrated in the streets, not because they had won a military victory, but because they had finally earned the respect they deserved. The message was clear: humanity would no longer be dismissed or underestimated. And across three galaxies, the laughter had stopped.